Hello, I'm Zash, and welcome to episode 13 of my G-Senjou no Maou, or Devil on G-String, Let's Read. Joining me, as always, is my co-reader Faith. The game has begun. Maou has delivered his orders to the Miwas, and it's now Tsubaki's job to make the exchange. I don't know how she'll get through this. She doesn't strike me as the kind who would be able to survive such an ordeal. Usami is also planning to tag along in the shadows. I really hope she doesn't screw this up with Maou. We received some evidence that Hiroaki is in his possession, some hair and a photograph, but I hope he's not dead yet. So, please enjoy this episode. The morning chill seemed a touch colder today. Alright, I've got a full day ahead of me today, too. Finishing up the preparations for the day, I walked to the door, only to have the cell in my chest pocket suddenly ring. Hello? It was Tsubaki.
I'm really sorry about calling this early.
You called at 4 a.m. This isn't so bad.
And you called at like 3 a.m. sometime before that, too, so...
It's no problem. Has something happened?
Well, I'm going to deliver the ransom today.
Oh. I pretended to be surprised. Sure, Kyosuke. That's a lot of pressure. Can you do it by yourself?
Yeah. This is the only thing I can do.
I sensed a steeled resolution in Tsubaki's voice. I'm sorry that I can't be with you at a time like this.
You've already done enough, as I can.
Well, I still have work to do. I'll come right over after I'm finished. Yeah, after I'm finished.
Thanks. I'll be waiting.
I hung up and walked out the door. Finally. I couldn't contain my amusement. A smile tugged at my lips. Let's enjoy this little game, shall we? And I'm not sitting like Maou at the desk.
Mm-hmm. Nine o'clock in the morning. Ours mind was as clear as the winter sky. Alrighty then, Tsubaki. This time, let's use our powers of friendship to apprehend the culprit.
This is turning into a magical girl anime.
Alright, Fellowship of the Ring, let's not go this way. You seem ready and raring to go, Haru-chan. Did you bring the ransom? Yep. Tsubaki was holding the certificates in an envelope, cradling it like a precious child. After waving to Tsubaki's parents, who had walked the pair to the door, the two of them left for Central Boulevard.
And were promptly mugged.
Yeah, I know it's just for the sake of the story, but man, it really gets my goat when they have these kids doing all this stuff. And the parents are like, okay, have fun, kids.
Well, to be fair, in this case, the
I would
kidnapper
at least
did demand
have
it.
put up a token resistance.
Yeah, but he didn't get a chance.
I would have at least put up some kind of a fuss.
Yeah. Well, everyone's too shell-shocked to do anything.
It's my child. You could blow my legs clean off, and I'm not going to be too shocked to say, get away from my kid. Maybe I just have higher expectations than others do. Where did all these people come from? Even at noon on Central Boulevard, this monstrous crowd is out of the ordinary. Hey, Haru-chan? What? Do you think it's okay for the two of us to go together? Tsubaki's stride was getting heavier by the second.
What, do you think someone will think you two are dating or something?
No, but he said she has to do the job. If there's an unknown person, Haru matched her footsteps, moving in tandem. He didn't say that we can't. In fact, Haru was under the impression that Maou was practically inviting her to participate in this incident.
This is true.
Very true. Still, I think it might be better if I keep my distance. Mao had likely anticipated Haru's involvement. If so, then instead of delivering the ransom with Tsubaki, it would be better to try to hide and pounce on Mao at the opportune moment. For example, the best chance of nabbing Mao might come when his attention is focused on Tsubaki during the exchange. What should we do? Tsubaki asked. She must still be worried about going alone. It'll be fine. I'm going to be right by your side. Really? Yeah. Only I'll keep a reasonable distance and watch over you from afar. Tsubaki tilted her head dubiously. Wait, does that mean we can't contact each other after this? That's right. I see. Haru put her hand on Tsubaki's shoulder. If it ever looks like you're going to be in any trouble, I'll dash out and save you immediately. That one sentence made Tsubaki relax, if only a little bit. A hint of crimson flashed across her face, and she nodded. Let me say one last thing. Sure, what? I'll try with all my might to catch the kidnapper. However, if he evades me, I intend to focus on keeping the ransom. Really? Tsubaki frowned again, apprehensive once more. Tsubaki must still want to follow the instructions of the kidnapper and give him the ransom. Listen closely, Tsubaki. Even if the criminal escapes, as long as we still have the ransom, there's a chance there'll be another exchange. I think. Maou will try to contact the family again in an attempt to get the ransom. And after that, a second battle will ensue. This should be true, but a foreboding feeling wiggled about in Haru's gut. That's called a tapeworm. One can claim that Haru's speculations are appropriate, but they make the critical assumption that Mao's goal is to get the ransom. To the best of her knowledge, though, this crime wasn't committed by a person who needs money. Just how much is 50 million yen in shares to Mao? Still, Haru remains stubbornly convinced that Mao is just trying to provoke her. In Mao's eyes, it might be less of a challenge and more of a game. Whatever the case, if Mao intends to defeat Haru, she would simply have to beat him to the punch. Of course, there's a chance that Mao might kill Hiroaki-kun out of retaliation when he realizes his defeat. Haru couldn't tear this unsettling thought from her mind. Haru-chan, I'll say what I said yesterday. Do what you want to do. Thank you. I thought you'd say that. Tsubaki stuck out her tongue. You're a really mysterious person, Haru-chan. What's that supposed to mean? You sort of seem like a dead weight sometimes, but you're full of vigor at other times. Which one is the real you? Who knows? To be looked into by another gave Haru a tingling feeling. Aww. Baby's
she is
first
getting
crush.
the feels.
Haru-chan, do you change schools often? I guess. Really? That must be exhausting. As kind as she was, Tsubaki must have realized that Haru probably didn't have many friends. Hey, Tsubaki. Other people tend to call me disgusting. But with that hair! Her words, seeming to come out of nowhere, shocked Tsubaki's wide-eyed. If you think I'm disgusting too, you don't have to be friends with me, you know? Haru thought of the past. The past where she perpetually hid her loneliness behind a lone wolf attitude and a cynical facade. However, Tsubaki's response was firm. Don't say such sad things. Surprised, Haru looks at Tsubaki. You're my friend, Haru-chan. Just why would such a pure girl exist in real life?
Okay, are you channeling Kyosuke here? Because he's been saying the exact same thing about her.
I think she's more similar than either of them really want to consider.
Yeah.
Tsubaki's gaze was firm, charismatic even. Haru decided in the back of her mind to do everything in her power for Tsubaki, no matter what happened. Aw, baby's first crush. She couldn't understand the reason behind it, and Haru's confusion showed on her face. Just accept your feelings, it'll hurt less. There's one last question I have to ask you. What? I thought the last thing was the last. This one is really the last, and it's an extremely important question. Alright. Haru fixed her gaze on Tsubaki. Tsubaki, do you like Kazaya-san? You will hop like that. That's so cute. Tsubaki obviously hadn't expected that, as she blushed red. Well, do you? I'm asking whether you like him or not. Yeah, I like him. Of course I like him. You can't find anyone as reliable as him. What do you mean, So her first impression was correct. Curses! Haru's emotions grew complicated.
Facebook status, it's complicated.
On the contrary, Tsubaki's mind seemed to have already cleared up. No matter what, thank you, Haru-chan, Tsubaki said. We should talk more after Hiroaki comes back. There's so much to talk about. Netflix and chill? Haru nodded. This time, it was Tsubaki's words that helped Haru relax. After all, she had just gained an excellent friend. Insert friend zone joke here. It was already 11:10. Tsubaki glanced at the clock on Central Boulevard to double-check the time. After parting with Haru, she had been on her own, following the kidnappers' instructions by herself. Almost right after the mall opened, she walked in. Per the criminal's demands, she spent 6,000 yen on a cheap attache case. The ransom, worth virtually everything the entire family owns, was already in that briefcase. Tsubaki dialed on the cell phone Haru gave her. It was strong in both battery life and signal. Hello? The call connected quickly. The kidnapper's captivating voice circled around her ear.
You must be a model student, Tsubaki.
Pardon?
You prepared that briefcase in record time. The mall only opened at 11.
She had no idea what he was talking about. She had no choice but to rush with her brother's life on the line.
I hope that you can be this quick from here on out.
Tsubaki could only give a faint response.
Are you on Central Boulevard right now?
Yes.
Head to Central Business. Do you know where that big park with the nice view of the Sano Corporation's headquarters?
Where am I supposed to be inside the park?
There's a big billboard. You can't miss it. Stand beside it, and we'll meet there.
I understand.
Hurry.
The call was suddenly disconnected. Tsubaki stopped and looked around, searching for Haru. However, sweeping her gaze through the bustling sea of people, she couldn't spot that attention-grabbing hair. She should be following me right now. Tsubaki gripped a briefcase, cutting through the chaotic streets.
30 minutes, at the very most. 20 minutes should be enough time to reach the park from the department store on foot, even for a girl. Even though I told Tsubaki that we would meet, I have no intentions of fulfilling that promise. I need to confirm one thing before I take the ransom. Whether or not the delivery person is truly obedient to the kidnapper. In other words, I need to determine whether or not she has the sense of responsibility and the stamina required for a successful exchange. And most importantly, whether or not she's contacted the police. So, 30 minutes. My gaze followed the minute hand on my watch. I believe that if she's still not here within 30 minutes, then, without a doubt, the police will be coming with her. If Tsubaki's family has ignored my warnings and called the police, there might be over 100 officers watching Tsubaki deliver the ransom. In order to capture me, countless police officers would have already begun setting an inescapable net at the park. However, no matter how quickly the task force responds, doing so would still take a considerable amount of time. After all, the police would have to move everyone from Central Boulevard to this park. They wouldn't allow Tsubaki to proceed until they finished organizing their members. That's why I'm being so sensitive to time. If I don't spot Tsubaki within 30 minutes, I have no choice but to cancel the exchange. Ellipses. Visibility in the park is excellent. If there are undercover cops about, I might be able to spot them. However, I don't have the confidence to say that I could do so with absolute certainty. For instance, if you were to ask me who stands out the most, there are two middle-aged couples, a man walking a dog, a man who looks like he's on his way to the office, and an old man helping a pregnant woman. There are simply too many suspects. Thus, the least I should do is remember the faces of everyone here. That way, if a person with a familiar face shows up as I order Tsubaki around, I can determine with high confidence that the person is with the police. I sat on a bench, scanning the area, searching for signs of law enforcement. I saw Tsubaki. She was sprinting to the billboard with all her strength. A girl wearing casual clothes and carrying an attaché case is very conspicuous. If a person with an overactive imagination saw Tsubaki right now, they might think that she looks like she's running to deliver a ransom. I checked the time. It's been less than 15 minutes since last contact. Well then, it's about time to issue the next order. However, I need to act under the assumption that there are already undercover police searching the park. If that is indeed the case, then I definitely can't call her immediately. The moment Tsubaki picks up, they'll be searching the park frantically for anyone talking on a phone. Before leaving, I took a second to look at Tsubaki in the distance. Even from afar, I could see she was nervous.
She waited for almost an hour. Tsubaki was nearly suffocating from the anxiety. I feel you, honey. Even though she came to the appointed place, not a single person who seemed like the kidnapper has shown up. The only people who have come to talk to her are flirtatious young men, not knowing anything about the situation. Her cell phone suddenly rang. The kidnapper is calling. Yes, I'm here, she yelled into the phone. The kidnapper groaned in discontent.
You're too loud, Tsubaki.
Eh?
Don't yell. Everyone around you will think you're suspicious, now won't they? Running around the city with an attaché case doesn't exactly match the image of a normal girl like yourself.
Sorry. The kidnapper's instructions are what made her stand out so badly, but she kept this thought to herself out of fear.
Good plan.
Yeah. So, what should I do with the briefcase?
Keep a good grip on it.
Huh?
Change of plan. Let's change the exchange point.
She searched for Haru without thinking, but she couldn't even find a thread of her being.
Go to the station on Central Boulevard. There's a row of lockers near the entrance. Go and find the coin locker that's labeled out of order.
Wait a second, please, I'm writing this down. Lodging the cell between her head and shoulder, she used her free hands to open her diary.
Put the briefcase with the certificates inside into the locker.
Isn't it broken?
Trust me, There's no problem with it at all.
The warning was probably prepared by him beforehand. Tsubaki waited for her next instructions.
After you lock it, take the key and get on the train to Sakuraogi City. That's where you'll be going next.
Sakuraoki City? That's the final stop of the line, at the next prefecture. From Central Boulevard, the trip will take 2 hours. Just what is he planning to have me do, calling me out that far?
When you get there, walk out of the train station, stand there, and wait.
Are you going to contact me again?
No. You'll phone me. Hurry.
I understand. We'll meet up there, right?
If you're a good girl, Tsubaki.
He used a frivolous tone. He's probably just messing with her. Tsubaki's unreleased emotions are rising and crashing inside her chest, waiting to explode at the lightest touch. I'll follow everything that you say, so please, return my brother to me. Flames of anger began to swell within the girl. Yet even with Tsubaki in this state, the kidnapper spoke to her in a mocking tone.
And what will you do if I don't?
I won't forgive you. She herself was surprised at the strength and harshness in her words. An unbearable silence followed. Terror attacked her. She may have angered the kidnapper. An inappropriate provocation may bring disaster upon Hiroaki. If that truly happened, how could she possibly endure the knowledge that she was responsible? The criminal spoke quietly.
I've made a decision.
Huh?
I will mold you into a human.
His words only confused her. Just as she was about to ask, the connection was cut. Into a human? Does that have some kind of philosophical meaning? She's never been good at understanding hidden meanings. Besides, it's natural for her not to understand the ideas of an evildoer, of a man who kidnapped a child.
Good point.
Oh, honey. Shades of moral gray must really, really befuddle you. She collected her feelings and walked to the station. As she was waiting for the light to change, someone spoke out to her. Tsubaki, don't move. Listen to me. Tsubaki had no idea when she had appeared, but Haru was standing by her side. She spoke to Tsubaki, keeping her eyes straight ahead rather than looking at her. Did you record all of his instructions? Yeah. It's in the diary. Then rip that page out and quietly throw it away as you walk. I understand. The light turned green. People began to surge forward. Once she got to the other end of the crosswalk, Tsubaki looked back behind her. Haru was already nowhere to be seen. Even now, Tsubaki had a sense of resistance to littering. But when she realized Haru would pick it up immediately, she felt a little better about it. Sweet cinnamon roll too pure for this world.
2 hours and 10 minutes have passed. If one hurried, they could have been able to get from the park to Sakuragi City in 2 hours. If it takes Tsubaki any longer, there is again the possibility of police involvement. I, of course, am still on Central Boulevard. After finishing all my preparations, I sat in the backseat of a car and gazed at the scenery outside. The populace ignored the cruelty of the winter cold, and the street grew even livelier. A panicked voice came through from the other end of the line.
Hello?
Are you there?
Yes. Where am I supposed to go next?
I hope you didn't lose the key.
I have it. What should I do next?
I gave her the instructions decided upon a long time ago. Come back.
Pardon?
Ignoring Tsubaki, who was in an utterly morbid state, I continued. Come back and retrieve the briefcase from the locker.
Why?
There's no reason for me to explain.
But why did you have me come out this far?
To get the ransom, of course.
Are you still suspicious of the police?
Who knows?
If that's how it is, then this is just a waste of time. I really didn't contact the police.
It's clear from her voice that she would like nothing better than to just give the ransom right this second. There's no police involvement.
No, definitely not.
There's a reason she had to go from Tomenbetsu City to Sakuragi City. Police take their respective jurisdictions seriously. Not in Japan. They're all one police department, so they don't have as firmly set jurisdictions. And all they have to do is call the Tokyo Police Department, well, the Tokyo Police Station, say, hey, yeah, we need to go over here to chase a kidnapper, just so you know. Cools. And that's about it.
Yeah.
Like, there's a little bit of paperwork, but it's nowhere near what the American police departments
like
have
here.
to deal with. And it's just because Japan's a lot smaller than the United States.
Yeah.
If Tsubaki was being backed by the police, then this kidnapping investigation would have had to be transferred to the other prefecture. Also, this is why the FBI are always involved in kidnapping cases.
Yeah.
Thus, the arrangement of personnel would be put into disorder once more. And even if Japan had jurisdictions like the United States, the FBI, the Japanese equivalent of the FBI, would be called in for the same reason the FBI is called in the States.
Yeah.
Such an event would considerably hinder police mobilization in this prefecture. Of course, there is a chance that the police departments would have made contact previously and are working together. However, police are people who are very conscious of territory, if not quite at a Yakuza level. According to my judgment, the police of Tomenbetsu and Sakuragi City don't rally together just for a kidnapping incident. You'd be surprised.
Yeah.
Missing 5-year-old cops tend to put their differences aside.
Yeah.
Just because if they didn't, the media would eat them alive.
Yeah.
Still, it's a good thing I didn't send her to Tokyo. That was my original plan. I never would have guessed that this prefecture and the Tokyo Police Department keep an unexpectedly good relationship. I only found this out a short while ago. That was dangerous. Fine. I will believe you. Tsubaki's actions are swift, without hesitation. At the very least, she shouldn't have had time to be in close contact with the police. Next time, I promise. Next time, I will retrieve the ransom. I was finally confident that I had done enough to preclude the police involvement and continue on with this battle.
So, after I pick up the briefcase, where should I go?
Take the subway to the residential area in the southern district.
Okay.
I'm going to give you the address you need to go to. Tsubaki confirmed the address after I told her the details. A white car will be parked there. Its doors will be unlocked. Take the ransom and sit in the back seat.
What should I do after that?
Wait for me to arrive.
What?
Are you uneasy? Does the thought of being in a cramped car alone with me frighten you? I laughed coldly.
What are you planning?
I was hoping to go for a ride.
Oopsies.
I'm really looking forward to it. I hung up and commanded the driver to go.
After another 2 hours or so, Tsubaki stepped back onto Central Boulevard. The sun sets early in winter. It was already evening by the time she arrived at the Southern District. Hey, Tsubaki. It was Haru. She had suddenly appeared behind Tsubaki, calling her name. Haru spoke abruptly. When you left for Sakuraragi City, I kept watch on the locker. No one approached the locker or tried to open it. I see. She didn't go with me to Sakuragi City. I didn't know whether to follow you or look after the locker. After thinking a bit, I picked the latter. Basically, even if he got the key, he still had to come to the locker if he wanted the ransom. Haru's explanation was more than enough to wipe away the anxiety in Tsubaki's heart.
And also, she probably couldn't afford the train ticket.
There's that too. If only there were more people to help us. Haru said these words with a hint of loneliness. The moment she finished, she once again disappeared into the sea of people. Tsubaki felt an ache in her heart. Maybe Haru doesn't even have a single friend that she can rely on. Without thinking, she murmured, Asao-kun, if Kyosuke were with me, I'm certain I'd have all the courage I need. Tsubaki savagely whipped her weak heart for that sentiment. Ow! That could give you cardiac problems. Wishing for unobtainable things won't bring her dear brother back to her. Her grip on the briefcase tightened as she headed towards the Southern District. She had no idea why she had called out Kyosuke's name.
Because you're crushing pretty hard on him?
Oh yeah. Tsubaki has pretty much never been there before, and the Southern District is, as a whole, a very quiet residential area. The setting sun has dyed the newly built western houses and the metal fences surrounding them a bloody red. Tsubaki checked the address again as she searched for her destination. Found it. She saw the car. It was your everyday white sedan. Tsubaki didn't know what the kidnapper's car would look like. Thankfully, there was only one white car at the designated place. Sit in the back seat. Her heartbeat grew violent. What did I say about cardiac arrest? She had never dreamed she'd be going on a ride with the kidnapper. He might even hold her captive. Yes, that's what I've been saying. Nevertheless, in the end, she still wanted her brother to be released. And for Hiroaki, sacrificing herself would be an easy price to pay. Tsubaki walked closer to the car, trembling as she rounded the bumper. Hesitantly, she forced herself to peer through the window. There was no one inside. She decisively reached for the door handle. Tsubaki slid into the back seat. She put the briefcase containing the ransom on her knee, letting a deep breath flow from her lips to calm herself. Silence reigned. The car was almost completely devoid of sound. Small beads of sweat soaked through her palm. The only noise that reached her ears was her own heartbeat. The silence only made her wait more torturous. She was tortured by her anxiety. The moment she closed her eyes, Hiroaki's face floated before her. Where is he right now? I just want to hurry up and see him. Hearing the ring of her cell, Tsubaki instinctively opened her eyes. She retrieved the cell from her pocket in a panic.
Is it comfortable inside the car?
It was a kidnapper.
I'm very sorry that I had to resort to a cheap vehicle like that, especially on such a rare occasion.
What does it matter how much the car costs? Tsubaki had read in a book before that men put great focus on appearances. To her, it was something incomprehensible. I'd say that's more a depends on who you're asking kind of thing. When will you be here?
I'm on my way.
However, in that instant,
Hmm?
the kidnapper suddenly lowered his voice.
What's this?
His voice changed. It lost the ease it once held. What's wrong? Her question wasn't answered. After a brief silence, the call was disconnected. Huh? Yet another unexpected event was hurled towards Tsubaki, still confused by the kidnapper's last words. Someone rapped on the car window. Following the sound, there was a face Tsubaki had never seen before. It stared her down emotionlessly. A hat and a uniform. She trembled. Her jaw hung wide open. The one thing that criminals fear the most stood just beyond the car window. Police. Tsubaki sank into terror, having no idea what she should do about the sudden appearance of the police. Her knees were shaking. The police officer was asking her to get out. Her vision was hazy, dizziness gnawed at her, and her stomach lurched with every motion. Tsubaki stepped out like a mindless robot. When she opened the door, she put the briefcase down on the seat, almost subconsciously. The man was repeating a question that she didn't know how to answer. Does this car belong to you? Tsubaki was more nervous than she had ever been in her life as she listened to policeman's questions like an uninvolved bystander. What are you doing here? Tsubaki shook her head, making meaningless sounds such as "ow" or "eh." She thought she managed to reply that everything was fine. However, the policeman kept on saying, "This is standard procedure, just answer." They also mentioned something about the possibility of the car being stolen, and other things along that line. She was completely incoherent. She had never been spoken to by a police officer before. She almost wet herself from fear. If the kidnapper saw her with the police, how would she explain? There are two of them. There are also two bicycles. But those are only fleeting images before her eyes. What's that briefcase? One policeman pointed to the car behind her. Can we check inside it? The question jerked her slightly back to her senses. A strange sense of purpose began to take hold of her. No, you can't. It was as soft as the buzz of a mosquito. Even though her head was lowered, she clearly demonstrated her rejection. She didn't know when it happened, but the policeman in front of her was holding a briefcase. I said no! It was the briefcase with the ransom inside. The briefcase containing her brother's life. If they looked through it, the police would know about the kidnapping. When this train of thought surged through her mind, fear that she'd never be able to see her brother again rushed towards her.
At this point, I don't think they could open the briefcase without her permission or a warrant.
I don't think so because it's her property. However, if the car is stolen and she was sitting in it and she is acting suspiciously, they do have due cause to retain the briefcase. So they could,
if the car was stolen.
Even if they think it is, if they have good reason to think that's a stolen car, they have due cause to look in that briefcase and to detain her. That fear purged all reason, and Tsubaki lost track of her own actions. A freakish scream burst forth into the air. She reached out her hands and grabbed something as tightly as she could. Her fingertips felt the cool, hard shell of a briefcase. The policeman said something, but Tsubaki never heard a word. She was running. She was facing away from the policeman. A yell for her to stop may have reached her back, but not her brain. Fear. Yet her legs, as if they didn't belong to her but some other animal, kept on sprinting.
Adrenaline's a hell of a drug.
Oh yeah. She ran away, wordless, panting, dizzy, almost falling down. She felt as if she too had become a criminal. Driven by the guilt and oxygen deprivation, her tears couldn't be stopped anymore. But there was no time for her to cry anymore. Oh God, I'm sorry. Having successfully escaped and now making her way through the bustling crowd of Central Boulevard, Tsubaki was still on edge. I'm sorry, but I managed to get away. I still have the ransom. She begged with all that she had. The kidnapper answered with a voice colder than those she had heard before.
Why do you apologize? Wasn't that a coincidence?
It was. I swear I had no idea. How could I have known that there would be police?
If you had no idea, then why are you apologizing? I can't fathom why you would do that unless you have been in contact with the police all along.
I just thought I should. The person on the other end of the line didn't let down his guard.
Did you betray me?
No,
You were thinking that you would catch me there, weren't you?
it's true, believe me.
Forget about it. This exchange is over.
How can you do that? She felt as if her head had just been struck by a blunt object. If this continues, Hiroaki is gone. I'll do anything. I'll do anything. Just please let my brother go.
Ellipses.
Please. Please. By the end of her pleading, she was unable to even form sentences. Her eyes were filled with tears.
You really treasure your brother this much?
Of course,
Why?
because we're family. At that, the kidnapper laughed coldly.
Yes, of course. Because you're family. Right. A person should treasure family.
He continued with a mocking tone.
Tsubaki, you must have been loved since birth. Probably raised clean and pure, too.
What does that mean?
Exactly what it sounds like. The kindness radiating from you is just too dazzling. I can hardly bear to look at it.
Tsubaki understood that comment even less. Everyone always says she's a good person. Kyosuke had even joked about it. But isn't everyone else good too?
I've always thought that kindness is malicious intent in disguise. But it seems like you're an exception.
She just couldn't take it anymore.
Fine. We'll continue the exchange.
Thank you so much. She lowered her head in thanks without thinking about it. Even in this outrageous situation, she still showed her gratitude to the criminal.
I'm going to be more careful from now on. Even if the police interfere, I will follow through with my plans and take the ransom.
Tsubaki was beginning to think that the kidnapper is still human after all. As long as she just asks him with sincerity, he'll understand. He might even have a good reason for kidnapping Hiroaki. Oh, honey. For the first time, Tsubaki found herself interested in the kidnapper's thoughts and feelings. So interested, in fact, that she completely missed the point when she had stopped asking questions. The point when she became completely obedient.